What is going on YouTube? Today I want to talk to you about the project that built my entire shop. My name's Andy, this is Cedar River Woodworking, and welcome to the shop. I live inside my... And here is that build. This is a 3-tiered herb planter that I started my entire business with. Now, I started this business with a table saw and a miter saw. The table saw I had kind of laying around. It was a job site table saw, and it cut the cedar fence pickets very, very well. And I needed to pick up a miter saw for some trim work that I was doing. So the trim work, I wanted a saw that was capable of just about everything. So I did pick up my Hercules saw at that time. Now, if you've been a part of the channel, you'll know that I have this Hercules saw, and I currently have a Delta contractor saw. So I did upgrade from my job site table saw to my contractor saw just with this set of builds like this one here. Now I will go over a pricing schedule that I used for my builds here later on in the video. And I will be sure that I have linked in the video description all of the tools that I use during this video. So let's jump over to the miter saw and I will show you exactly how we build this thing. So to start off this planter, we're going to have 4 fence pickets. They are 5.5 inches wide by 6 foot long. You can get them in 1/2 inch thickness or in 5/8 thickness. I go with the premium ones and I get the 5/8 thickness. One of those off camera, I already ripped down to 1.5 inches wide on the table saw. Now we need to come over here to the miter saw and I will show you all the cuts that we need to do to make these planters. So like most of the rest of the things that we have on these rough construction, I'm going to cut off the end of this so we have a square end. Now you may be able to see here, I have all 3 of the ones that we need to cut up because these are all identical. I have all 3 of them stacked on top of each other so we can make these cuts a lot faster. I did also pre-sand these before we came over here just to get some of the fuzziness off of here. So what we're going to do for our first cuts is we're going to make 2 cuts at 4 3/4 inches. I did put a stop block here, and this is a pretty small piece that you're going to be cutting. So we're going to make sure the blade completely stops rotating before we lift the saw. If you don't do that, you will bind up on the piece that's trapped here between the stop block and the saw blade, and it will cause a kickback. Now, a kickback can cause damage to you, to your machinery. You just don't want any of that stuff to happen. So make sure that you're not doing that. All right, so now that we have the rest of the boards left over here, we need to cut them into 16-inch pieces. You should get 3 16-inch pieces out of each one of these. So you'll need 9 of those pieces in total. But if they're stacked like this, you're only gonna have to make 3 cuts. Now, we set a stop block for this one because we want pieces that are all exactly the same. Now you can see that one, I lifted the blade up before the blade had completely stopped spinning. That's because I had my hand on the piece that was trapped over here to make sure that it didn't move and get caught by any of the teeth and throw up. It is probably safer to allow the blade to completely stop, but you can do it this way as well. You will have some small pieces left over that look like these. I don't know, maybe we could make these into some snowmen or something in the future. If you want to see me make some projects out of scrap wood just like this, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. So now on our miter station, we have our 1.5 inch wide pieces that we cut out of our 4th piece here. I will need 1 at 16 inches. So the stop block is already set to 16, so I'm going to start with that one. The next piece that we are going to cut are 2 24-inch pieces. Now we do have this piece left over that we cut the 16-inch piece out of. We should be able to get the 2 24-inch pieces out of that. And we just have a small leftover piece from that there. So now what we need to do is we need to rotate our saw so that we have a miter on here of 30 degrees. We're going to get our second piece here that is 1.5 inches wide, and we're going to cut that 30-degree miter on the end of here. And then measuring from the tip down, we are going to measure 27.75 of an inch. Now this cut is going to be a parallelogram. So what that means is the end pieces are going to be parallel with each other. So all we're going to need to do is slide that piece down, and I'm going to have a stop block set here at that 27.75 inch. So this is what that piece should look like. On this end you have a 30-degree angle, and on this end you have a parallel angle to it like that, 27.75 inches. I'm just going to slide this piece down because it already has our 30-degree angle on it. And you should have a small scrap piece left over like this. Now we will have one more piece here that looks about like this, and we do still need that, but we're going to need it in a later step in the video. So just make sure you stick tuned for that. So here we are at the bench. Now we need to assemble this planter. I'm going to set off to the side my 1.5 inch wide ripped pieces here, and we're going to focus on the 16-inch pieces, or the full width pieces, that we are going to be using. Now you can see that I have them still stacked up just how I cut them. The reason that is because then I have matching boxes all the way down. So these colors will be just like this, and they will all match each other. One of those tools that I had when I started my woodworking was a brad nailer. It was a pneumatic brad nailer, and I really liked it. They're fairly cheap to pick up, but you have to deal with an air compressor, and you have to drag around a hose and all of that kind of stuff. So I picked up a DeWalt brushless. So I like this one a lot. It's DeWalt just because that's what I currently had at the time. So most of my cordless tools are all DeWalt, because then I can just interchange batteries and don't have any issues that way. I like it, but it's really, really top heavy. And for light work like this, I thought that a lighter one might be a lot better. So Linknall actually reached out to me and asked me if I could review their tool, do a project with it, something like that. And I'm not much of a open a box and explain everything type person. So I'm going to do the project with this Linknall 18 gauge brad nailer. And they did send it to me, and they wanted an honest review on how this thing works. So we are going to use this on this project, and I will let you guys know throughout this process exactly what I think of it. So we're going to open it up, and it is in a nice case. You get 2 batteries, a charger. These are what look like 1 3/8 brad nails come with it. It's nice that they give a stack to you. And then obviously the nailer. So the nailer, you can see here, is significantly smaller, but one of those problems with it being smaller is the magazine capacity. So it's 1 3/8 is the biggest nail that it can use. So these are 18 gauge brad nails. I use a lot of 1.5 inch nails, so I wish that they would have just made it that little bit bigger so I could put an 1.5 inch brad nail in here, and it would do pretty much all of the projects that I need. So we're gonna slap one of these batteries in here. These are unused batteries that come from the factory. They have a little battery light on the back of it, and this is telling me it's only got 1 bar on this one and also 1 bar on this one. So I'm gonna have one charging while we're doing this, and we'll see if I need to recharge this battery at all through this entire project. Enough with that, let's get to the project. Alrighty, to start our project, we are going to take 3 of the same pieces of wood here. So these all came from the same picket. I like doing that just because then it has the same coloration. You don't have a different colored board with the other ones. And we are going to lay 3 of them out just like this here. And then all we're gonna do is just make a trough or a U shape with these guys. So we can stand one up like that, and stand one up like that to give our U shape. So I'm going to take some Titebond 3. This is outdoor rated wood glue. It is considered waterproof, so you can use it on something like this project. And I'm just going to put a line of glue here at the bottom of each one of these side pieces. And then all we need to do is stand it up and then nail it into place. We're gonna make sure that the ends are right here next to each other, and we're gonna glue it in. First thing I can tell you, just by those first few that we put in here, I enjoy how quick this thing is. My DeWalt nailer has to spool up the motor and it takes forever. I'm sure you guys hear it in all the videos. It just sits there and whines. And especially for videoing like this, it takes a long time extra for each minute that that thing has to wind down. I did drive these nails in here fairly deep. It looks like there's a depth adjustment here on the side. So I'm going to dial that in. There's a multi-nail nailer feature on this, so I can just hold down this button and just go to town. So we're going to get this other side on here now. All right, so now that we have our U shape made up here, we need to put the ends on this. And that is the piece that we cut at 4 3/4. So it will fit right down here in the end. And then we can squish that in here and nail it into place. Now, you may have some gapping and things like that because a lot of times these fence pickets are not straight. They've got some cupping or bowing to them. That is something that you'll have to deal with in this project. So what I'm going to do here is just line the inside of this with some glue. Now these brad nails are not in here to hold this thing together. The brad nails are in here to make sure that this glue dries completely, and the glue is what's going to be holding these boxes together. All right, so now that we have one end on here, we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other end. Well, now that we have one of these boxes made, I'm going to go ahead and make the other two boxes off screen here. So I will see you all in about 5 seconds. So here we are with our 3 boxes made. I've got the other 2 ones over here. Now we need to start getting into these 1.5 inch wide pieces. So we're going to take our 2 24-inch pieces, and that is going to go towards the side that is towards me. Now I do have this box flipped up upside down. So the opening is facing towards the bench, and these are going to be the rear legs. Now, what I like to do is I like to scribe a line on here, and that's just going to show me where I need to apply glue. I'll apply glue to the leg individually, and then place it against here, and then brad nail it into place. Now I'm just going to make sure that that is completely lined up with the face of this. I put 6 brad nails in here, and that was on this continuous mode that it has available. I actually really like that. It was fairly quick for this little gun that it is here. And putting about 100 nails in so far. It feels pretty light. It's significantly lighter than my DeWalt, and I like that all the weight's up front instead of all the way across the top. So we're going to do the same thing for this other leg here. All right, now we have 2 legs on here. So it can't quite stand yet. We are going to put our 2 front legs on there. Now I'm going to take the point of this and I'm going to put it directly against the back leg here. And it's going to look something like this. So that should come across the front corner of this box here. So I'm going to scribe a line here again so I know where to put some glue. and we'll go ahead and attach that just like the back legs. Now I would recommend using a little bit shorter nails in these. These 1 3/8 do poke through here. So I would recommend going to 1-inch brad nails instead of these 1 3/8. They're what came in the box, so I wanted to use the maximum length on these because I really wanted to test this thing out. It is on Cedar, so I guess I'm really not testing too hard. Alright, so now that we have 4 legs on here, you can see it stands up. But we need to attach the other 2 boxes to this. So I'm going to flip it over again. And I'm going to take 2 2x4s and I'm going to place them on the inside here. This is going to give us a little bit of a spacer so that we can put our next box in here. So this will also be upside down. And I'm going to push that forward here. And it's going to be completely supported by this front leg here. So I have it slid forward so it goes about corner to corner on here. And I've got it about equal on both sides, looks like. And then I'm going to mark this, and I'm also going to use glue on this joint as well. So I use the 2x4s to mark the joint on the side here as well. Make sure that you have your box opening up, and go ahead and slide it into place there. It was a little bit messy here, so I'm going to wipe off all this glue. You can sand it later if you would like to. And finally, we are going to do one more set of this, so we're going to put our final box on the same way. Alright, so we are really starting to look like a planter here, but one of our problems is our legs are really flimsy, and this thing could tip over because of that. So we have a 16-inch long piece here to brace our back legs, and then across the years I've learned that a lot of customers like bracing on the sides as well because they feel like it might collapse in on itself. So we have our full-length 1.5 inch wide piece over here on the miter saw that we will use to brace the sides of our legs as well. So my 2x4 pieces I cut into 8-inch lengths, and I'm just going to set them on the inside here, and that is going to give me my proper height of my 16-inch tall piece, or our 16-inch long piece. So I'm just going to put some glue here on the ends, and then we will nail that into place here. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier, watch where your fingers are. Sometimes these brad nails can shoot off. Now the orientation of your brad nailer will help with that because most brad nails are flat. So when they come out, they might try to follow the grain and shoot off. So make sure that your fingers are not in the firing zone of your brad nailer. All right, so now that we have that there, I'm going to cut a piece, I would say about 13 inches long, and then we can mark that front angle on here and see exactly what that angle needs to be. Alrighty, so we have our 13-inch piece cut, and I can use that same 8-inch spacer here to make sure that we are parallel with the entire thing. So we can just set it here across it, and then I'm just going to mark what angle it is. And then I'm just going to go over to my miter saw and cut that angle. I'll be right back. So now that I have the ends cut on here, I did cut both of them at the same time. I just need to brad nail that in place and we'll have this thing entirely done. There are a couple more finishing notes that I need to tell you about here, so make sure you stick around. And if you are this far, let me know what kind of herbs or plants that you would put inside of this planter. And I assume that if you're this far, that you're probably liking the content. So if you're not yet, please consider subscribing. So you can see I have the planter laid down on his back here, and I want to do one final thing, and that is to drill a 3/8 inch hole, or in my case, I'm going to drill 3 into each one of these boxes. This is going to allow for drainage, just in case there's any type of overwatering, or if it rains a lot in your particular area, it will help get all that extra moisture out so you don't have a lot of root rot in your boxes or with your plants that you have inside of these. So I'm just going to do one in the middle and then about halfway between each one of those. All right, and now we have our planter. If you have some wobble in it, you can kind of shim up one leg. You can trim it off, or you can sand it down to take out any wobble that you might have. But once you get weight in these things, they have a tendency to settle out, and a lot of that wobble gets taken out of them. Now, if you're like me and you use way too long of brad nails in here, you should probably clip them down so that you're not getting poked every time that you are reaching into the soil for these. Now, one final thing before I do get into what I price these and how this planter here started my entire business is I wanted to let you know what I thought about this brad nailer. I think if you don't currently have an 18 gauge brad nailer, this is a great option. So instead of having to go and buy an air tank or buy all of the accessories that you need to have a pneumatic one, you can go ahead and pick yourself up one of these guys for much less price than you would get, say, my DeWalt one. It does come with 2 batteries, so you can have one charging while you are using the other one. I am a little bit disappointed in the length of nail that these can drive, but an 1 3/8 is usually good for just about any project that you're looking to do. So if you're looking to do an accent wall or crown molding or any other type of trim work, this would be a great use for that. Or if you're building planters like this, it is at a price point that these will be able to pay for it very, very quickly. And you will be able to use the money for these to increase the size of your shop or the type of tools that you have so that you can get better tools or more tools to do other specific jobs. So my recommendation, if you don't already have one, pick one of these guys up. I highly recommend it. So I assume if you're still here, you would like to know some pricing on these planters that I have here. Now, it did take me a little bit to develop the 4 picket build for this. I started with 3 and it didn't quite work exactly how I wanted to, but 4 pickets for me cost about $12. And this build I can do in less than an hour. I'm doing it in about less than an hour, even with filming it right now. I would say that an appropriate pricing for my area, I price them for about $35. That is a really competitive price. I've seen these things for much more than that, upwards of $60, $70, which is double that. You can also try and do that in your area. You really need to figure out what it is that your area likes and kind of the pricing that they can get away with. And make sure that when you are selling these, that you have them staged correctly. So a lot of times with mine, I will put soil and plants in them to really show off what it is that these things will look like. Now, I do put a lot of herbs in mine. I have a couple of these in my yard currently, and they do really, really well for that type of stuff. If you are doing starters, or I do have a lot of succulents that I like to have in my own house, I like to start them in these because they have a lot of space to grow, and they can really fill out the area, and it will show me what type of pot in the future that I need to put them inside of. Well, that's going to be it for this build. If you did make it this far, let me know if you would sand these down and do a clear coat or some type of stain on them, or if you would like to leave them natural and have them kind of gray in the sunlight. Personally, I don't stain these at all. I leave them natural. Cedar is a very good wood for outdoor use and rot resistance. So anyways, for now, My name has been Andy, this has been Cedar River Woodworking, and we'll see you in the next video.